so a couple of things to start. Okay, so they are talking about right now, actually this came up a little bit on the last session, and somebody was feeling like a lot more fatigued than normal, and I told her, if Kelsey's here, I told Kelsey she's asking for a message, and there was something about that she was feeling very fatigued, and the guidance that she got from what I can remember is about eating more greens. And so which was kind of funny because of all the messages to get, but they were talking about eating more greens because of the ability of greenery to be able to clear out toxins in your body, clear and cleanse and purify your body. Right now, a lot of us are not eating what we normally would. So if we're eating like a little bit more unhealthy than normal, that happens, right? We're not eating what we normally would. We're kind of out of our routine. So they were talking about eating more greens. But what I was just receiving now, so in addition to that, what I was just receiving now was that they were talking about, and I don't know if this is a nutrient, there's something called chlorophyll. And it is, I believe, in greens. So it's a nutrient or something like that. And forgive me because I'm not a nutritionist by any means, but they're talking about chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, if you take it like as a supplement, that also helps you during this time. So to be able to get the benefits of greens through that nutrient. So if you're already taking supplements right now to help you, like if you're taking like the vitamin C, vitamin D, probiotics, whatever else. I'm just thinking what else I'm taking. A few different things, B12, whatever your supplements are that you take, you may want to try adding in chlorophyll or just eating more foods with chlorophyll. So those typically like the dark leafy greens, I think. Okay, so that was the first thing. And that's going to help you just with your diet right now, just feeling better. And then the second thing they were talking about was just the fact that now that a lot of us are now, now that a lot of us are inside, and I think a lot of us are sitting more, right? We're sitting more, we're more likely to be working from home, just, on the couch, whatever, you're sitting more. So what they were showing me was that, that your kind of like your hamstring area and also, what's called your IT band in your legs, are going to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not strained, but just, God, I'm at a loss for words right now. Just tight, like they're going to be tight. The back of your legs are going to be tight. And it's really important that you make sure that you are getting up often and just stretching, particularly that area. Last week, some of the guidance that came through was talking about joint pain as we go through this kind of energetic upgrade kind of at a cellular level. I went on a lot about that last week. And it was amazing too. So many people told me like, oh, I couldn't figure out why I was having so much joint pain like after I did the live. And I was so interesting. So now they were just saying, because we're sitting so much, like more than we normally would, just make sure that you get up every once in a while and stretch your lower body, like your hips and your legs, your hamstrings, your IT bands. There's so many different exercises that you can do. So this is just, easy, simple advice to help you. And again, a lot of this information is just maintaining that energetic well-being right now, okay, and that energetic self-care. So those are your first two messages. A couple of you have said you've been feeling sore in your lower body, your back. Yeah, so there you go. Okay. So just be extra conscientious about your lower body and your lower back as well. Okay, so we'll go back in. It's funny, yesterday I was just talking to my sister about this, about the different chakras in the body, and how there's a lot more chakras than we're aware of. So if a lot of you guys know that you've got the 7 main chakras in the body, 7 main energy centers. But they were just telling me about how important it is of the foot chakras. So there's a minor chakras in different areas of your body, like your knees and your ears and stuff, but there are some at your feet as well. And this is how you process energy to and from yourself from the earth. So they were just saying this is a really good time to focus on opening up the chakras at your feet. So if that means just walking barefoot every once in a while, and also just consciously bringing energy up and down through the earth. If you guys have ever done the healing roots meditation that I've done with my Reiki classes, but also it's up on my website as well. That's a really good one to get grounded. So you may want to do like and there's so many versions of it, but you may want to try doing that healing roots meditation and just focusing on opening up your foot chakras, because that's what is going to help you feel a lot more grounded right now. Okay. So there's another thing. Okay, so they were just saying, so how many of you, and I'm just going to ask, so how many of you will go and put yourself in a position where you're contemplating something, so you're contemplating between two things, but deep down you already know the answer, but you still put yourself in a position to contemplate two options. I do this all the time. So if you do that, the advice was not to put yourself in a position where you're wasting any more time or energy contemplating when you know deep down what's right for you. So they're talking about this notion of what feels good and like not wasting time on that. So if you've got two choices presented to you, you're looking at it, most of us, like all you guys, are super intuitive. You just trust yourself, trust that intuition. Okay. Even if one feels like a want versus what feels like a need, you just don't override your intuition. Don't override those feelings that you feel. Typically that comes from your solar plexus. You feel it in your solar plexus. So they're just saying you practice making that intuitive choice without hesitation. You don't need to sit yourself in contemplation land, wasting your time. Okay. So that was one thing. They were also giving me this imagery of like a train, and what happens with the train is it's over time it picks up speed as it gets going. If it has to stop, it takes much longer for it to stop. So it takes much longer for it to slow down to come to a stop. And I was trying to feel like what that was about, and they were talking about pacing. So pacing yourself. So Right now, I think there's a lot of people that feel this is the time to like do everything at once. And I definitely felt that, like, oh, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Yeah, it is, absolutely. But you also have to pace yourself. So you can only do so much at a time. So just make sure that you don't want to crash and burn, right? So just make sure that whatever it is you're doing right now from home, just make sure you're pacing yourself. Okay, so pacing yourself in a way that feels good for you. So a good mix of being productive and in the way that you want to be productive and get things done that you want to get done, but also resting. So a pace that feels good, because resting is extremely important too, especially right now, especially for us folk that are energetically sensitive. Okay. So I hope that analogy made sense to you. As if you guys been following me for a while, you know I get these analogies. It's always to help us understand a concept. So think of the train next time you feel like there's too much going on, okay? Or maybe not enough. So there you go. Okay, eating processed foods right now is going to make you feel even worse. So do not, avoid the processed stuff. And when you eat processed stuff, again, that's lowering your vibration. And last week we talked a lot about keeping our vibration high. This adds to that. And also they said take note of what you want to do for yourself during this time, but don't force yourself to do anything unless it feels right. So that's kind of going back to the pacing yourself message. And they're also saying, many of us will kind of look back on this time and in kind of retrospect and say, oh, I wish I had done this, or I had achieved that, or whatever. I had taken this time to do this and I haven't done it. They're saying you don't need to beat yourself up about that. If you feel that, if you have that feeling in the future about this time, they said, because everything happens in its own cycles, its own time frames. We operate as human beings. We measure life in timelines. But things happen naturally in their own way. So we don't need to associate what could or couldn't have been, with time. It's everything happens when it needs to, just like nature does. So don't look back and be, upset or beat yourself up about something that you did or didn't do during this time, okay? Okay, they're showing me, they're talking about like astronomy and astrology, and almost like that's another resource for information. It's almost like we get a better understanding of some events that are happening right now by looking at those two things. But we're likely to receive more information about that in the future, they said. Okay, and for today, I'm getting the energy of the deer. So last week, it was the cat. So Sarah, I know you were asking about pulling a card from the spirit animal deck, but I know I did get the cat energy, so maybe you guys have been able to look more into cat. Today I'm getting the deer, so I'm just gonna look in my book and read that to you. You guys know most of you know I'm very, very connected to animals, so they tend to show up whenever I do any type of energy healing work, okay? So I'm just gonna read from my book, all right? So we're talking about the deer. So if deer shows up, it says you've been involved in some aggressive, negative circumstances and need to seek out safe, nurturing situations and people. Okay, so that makes sense because, like I was saying last week, a lot of us are feeling like we're bouncing off energy from each other, and we may have a tendency to react. We may have a tendency to not think before we speak, or maybe lash out at someone. There's a lot of tense energy happening, so that makes sense. It says more than ever you need to trust your gut instinct. Okay, we just talked about that. It says you're poised for an enticing adventure, one that will take you down many different paths and lead to many important insights. And it says be gentle with yourself and others. Okay. I think that's pretty good, pretty on point. Okay, so if you want to work more with the deer energy, if this is really resonating with you, you can call on the deer when you need help finding inspiration and resources for any creative projects you're working on. You need help in situations where extra vigilance and sensitivity is called for in order to avoid any harmful consequences. You want to release any resentments, grudges, or judgments about someone. You're charged with facilitating any women's ceremonies or rituals, such as honoring any major life passages and transitions. You want to find strength and endurance when you're going through a difficult life passage. Okay, so that's beautiful for the deer. So know that you can call on deer energy this week, if anything resonates there with you. Okay, this is the book, by the way, Animal Spirit Guides by Stephen D. Farmer. Okay. So we've got deer energy. Just reading here, we're good. Okay, so we'll continue. They're just saying this is a time where you can experiment a little bit more, take chances, do things you wouldn't normally do, maybe get outside of your comfort zone. Okay, and also make sure you're channeling only good energy, because it's easy to tap into that fear and darker energy right now. So we talked a lot about that last week. So this is just a reminder for you. If you're doing any channeling work, any meditation, just make sure you've got a strong intention to stay only in the love frequency. Okay, there's another animal, which is the camel. So let's look at the camel. Do we have a camel? We must. Yeah, we do. Okay, so let's read. So if camel shows up, more than ever, it's time to trust your own intuition for guidance, paying close attention to your senses and what they're telling you. You have a lot more energy and durability for the task ahead than you think you do. The road ahead may be difficult and you won't have a lot of support, yet you must take it with complete trust that you have everything you need within you and that you will succeed. That's beautiful. Although you'll never want for anything, it's still a good idea and a practical move to store away some supplies and money for future use. Okay, I think that makes pretty good sense. All right, so you can call on camel when you've been on a long haul and need to replenish your energy and nourish yourself. You're feeling lost and discouraged and need the strength to endure and the faith to know that everything will turn out all right. You want to feel some stability and continuity in your life in spite of the shifting sands around you. You're about to embark on a new adventure, a literal or metaphorical journey that will take you into unknown territory where you're not sure about how your basic needs will be met. Okay. There you go. So there's camel for you. It's so interesting, hey, how these animals are like so relevant. Okay, so we're at 11:23 right now, so I'll try and do a couple more, and then I know Instagram Live, I've learned after an hour kicks me off, so I will rejoin back onto Instagram Live, and then you just stay with me and rejoin with me, okay? So I'll try and get a couple more in, and then we'll rejoin, okay? So they just said, try not to take anyone too seriously right now because we are operating on emotions that are so fluctuating up and down. So, if anyone is particularly moody right now that you know of, or that maybe that you're living with, and they say or do anything that you're just kind of like, whoa, where did that come from? Spirit was just saying, don't take it too seriously right now because we're all experiencing and processing this whole thing, this whole global pandemic differently, and I think that's why I was talking about last week. There was such an emphasis about what it means to be a light worker and how we need to be strong and maintain our own high vibrations and frequencies for others, so that kind of ties into that. So they're just saying don't take it too seriously. If there's anybody's kind of out of character, it's gonna pass with time, okay? Okay, they're saying frankincense. If you have frankincense oil, essential oil, that's a good one to keep diffusing. If you have a diffuser at home right now, that helps maintain good energy. It's also very grounding and protective. So frankincense. So what I just got there was that we may struggle right now, a lot of us may struggle right now to really hear each other. And what I mean by that was really hear like what our needs are, or we're having a harder time maybe expressing ourselves, what we're feeling, explaining something, a concept, maybe something we're going through. And what they were just saying there was that you may feel like you need to reiterate yourself to others. And they said not because like it's about helping people understand you. It's about showing that you care. They had an exact phrase, and I see if I can get it back. It's about like listening and explaining to understand, not to show like indifference. So it's like about reiterating something that you are trying to explain to others because it means something to you. So it's basically talking about how important it is to listen, not only to yourself, but to others, and to help others understand you, where you're at right now. I hope that makes sense. I tried to explain that as best as I could. It just may feel like you need to repeat yourself sometimes to others, and that's okay. You can do that. Yeah, and just a lot about truthful expression, okay, is important right now. Truthful expression. Say what you want to say, what you need to say. Don't say something because you're going off someone else's feelings, and that doesn't mean like being rude or disrespectful, but just being truthful to what you're feeling and experiencing, and that it's valid, okay? That's, I think, what they're getting at. You just may feel like you need to reiterate more for whatever reason, and that's fine. You can do that. Okay. I hope this is making sense. So Instagram is telling me it's going to kick me off in about 30 seconds. So I will end the live, and then I will rejoin. So hopefully you will just stick around for a sec and then rejoin, and we'll continue on. Okay? Sound good? If you had any questions, just make sure that you remember them so that you can ask me. Okay?